How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be talking about a classic sci-fi film, and that is Starship Troopers from 1997. This is directed by Paul Verhoeven, who's done a lot of classic sci-fi stuff. RoboCop, Total Recall, Hollow Man. Yeah, a classic director. This movie stars Casper Van Dien, Denise Richards, Dina Meyer, and Neil Patrick Harris and Michael Ironside. Some pretty fun names to see popping up in this movie. This is based on a novel by Robert A. Heinline, and this is, I feel, kind of a bit of a similarity to The Shining, where both the novel and the movie are considered classics, but they have very different takes on the source material. I'm sure there's a bunch of people who have made videos about it. Personally, the novel is still on my to-read list. I do plan on getting to it pretty soon, and whenever I read it, I'll probably review it, and I'll talk about the differences there. But just know there is a bit of a war between the two fans, but I think they're probably both pretty good. But anyway, with this movie, yeah, I did say it was a sci-fi classic off the top, and yeah, there's a lot going on. But one thing I do like is it's a movie you can enjoy both at the surface level and when you dig in. At the surface level, bugs and alien bugs and human military in space fighting off the bugs. People's heads and arms are gonna get, chopped off. The bugs are gonna get splatted and bug goo is gonna spray all over the place. There's some really fun and creative moments in the action, and they really do a good job making sure that it's just a fun, cheesy action movie. Very, very cathartic, very violent, and you can sit back and watch it and just have a good time enjoying the violence on screen. There's that, but there is a deeper level if you want to dig there. And again, they don't block off the movie where it's inaccessible unless you analyze it. But if you want to analyze it, there's some levels, There is clear metaphors in this movie to the Nazis, and it's one of those things that when you grow up and you watch this movie, you're like, oh, that costume's a little similar, oh, that looks a little bit like, okay, we're talking about Nazis here. So yeah, it is a metaphor. It talks about fascism, and it talks a lot about propaganda, but also what it's like being someone inside this culture, not realizing how much your life is influenced by it, and just how much decisions aren't really yours. It does a really good job focusing on real human characters and their struggles in this world. This world is essentially set up to throw them all in a meat grinder for the profits of the government, but they constantly talk about their lives, their goals, and what they have to do, typically in government service, to achieve them, and sometimes sacrificing stuff for the war effort. You see their dreams, and you know that the world doesn't care at all for them, and if they think it is, they're being manipulated. There's tons of ads in this movie, lots of fake commercials and government propaganda pieces, and usually they're dripping with sarcasm and quite funny, the little kid in the army suit, I'm doing my part, or comical censor bars around something hyper-violent. But you see things like the youth being encouraged to be, super in support of the army, and how it's painted to be purely noble and good, and how the bugs are portrayed as this hyper-violent menace. But at the same time, when you look at the movie and you question things and you dig deep, we don't really know too much about the bugs' motivation here. And it's quite easy to see that maybe, just maybe, the bugs are just defending themselves. There's not really too much evidence that the bugs are really evil or really want war, and there's some things attributed to the bugs that some people question, did the bugs really do that or not? And it is an interesting world with an interesting setup, talking about propaganda and fascism in a metaphorical and interesting and well-developed way, not just the brain rot you see on Twitter when anyone tries to discuss fascism today, but a really good metaphor and a really interesting way to go about talking about these things. So yeah, a very good, real, relatable human element caught up in this swirl of hyper-violence that can be looked at as just an action movie, but can also be looked at detailing politics and the horrors of big government and the systems that it will inevitably make to crush its citizens. If I did have a major flaw with this movie, though, that would probably be some of it doesn't hold up as far as the looks of the movie. There is a little bit of CGI that was used probably before it should have been. I mean, CGI in movies, yeah, especially late 90s, there's a few moments that don't hold up visually, and every now and then you'll get a set that just looks a little bit too like a laser tag arena. So yeah, some of this just doesn't hold up visually. Again, the movie and the script and everything is still tight, but every now and then you'll see a dated effect. But also, this really, it's just the structure and stuff, probably should have been a TV show. The events in this movie are relatively episodic, and the movie covers a long string of time. And when you look at something like the beginning of the movie where we spend a lot of time in boot camp and a lot of events happen in there, it really does feel structured like it should have been a cable TV show of the time rather than a movie. And I don't know, it just always felt like it had a little bit weird pacing. But whatever, it's still, like I said, a classic, but just does have some weird moments. Anyway, without further ado, in order to analyze this further, let's talk a little bit about the plot. I'm not going to do any major spoilers, but I do want to say my piece on a few plot points and make sure you guys have a basic understanding as to what the movie's about. So yeah, I'm not going to just spoil the whole thing. I'll cover primarily setup in order to dig in and analyze further. So anyway, we open up with our main character, Johnny Rico, Casper Van Dien's character. He's in a school, and the military propaganda is quite evident. A lot of his teachers were former military, and a lot of them are missing limbs. The military has a ton of benefits, being looked at with an air of respect, but also getting to become a citizen and getting more rights. I think voting is one of them. Also, it's easier to get a license to have a child. There's just a lot more you can do if you've had military service. And in turn, Johnny's crush is going to go into the military, and he decides to follow her there. His parents really don't want to. He's rich enough where he can live a good life even without military service, but he, of course, is going to follow her anyway. And after that, the friends do get split up. The one friend, played by Neil Patrick Harris, has some psychic powers, so he gets put at the very front of the line. Denise Richards, the girlfriend, has special piloting skills, so she gets a significantly better experience in her going around getting to pilot the starships. Yeah, she is living a much better time than Rico. Rico is going to be a boots-on-the-ground soldier, and that's not a good life. So you do get to see a bit of classism there, and you do get to see poor Rico joining the military just for a girl, and now his life is in danger. Yeah. we get the section at training camp, and it is definitely the wake-up call section where you get to see how cruel the world can be and how much he has to learn. And there's even a bit with a horrible training accident that, again, definitely a wake-up call segment. This is the beginning of his character building, and it's the start of a longer journey. That being said, training does go on for a while, and I think there's a few parts you could have cut out. It's a little bit long, and yeah, like I said, it really does feel like an episode of a Starship Troopers TV show. If this was made nowadays, this would probably be like an 8-part event on Apple TV+, and there you could breathe things out a little better, but whatever. Training's cool, just goes on a bit long. But anyway, we'll eventually get him out there and get him seeing action. And you know how I said they split up his old friend group and you got to see all his friends do way better than him? Well, he starts to form a new friend group, and even though like some of these people didn't really like him to begin with, you get to see the group bond and go stronger as they're forged by fire, running out there, just you and your suit and your gun, and giant bugs ripping you limb from limb. You're gonna be friends with your fellow humans pretty quickly. And I do like seeing the growth, both him embracing his new friends, his new world, and getting tougher as the movie goes on. He gets tougher as a character, he becomes harder, he gets, his rank will get promoted a few times in the movie, and he'll get more responsibilities. It is a story about growing up, and about, you know, going in as this young, dumb kid that joined the army for a girl, and becoming a sort of war-torn, hardened soldier that is facing death literally all the time. So it is a movie about growing up. It is a movie about the world being a system designed to tear you down for its own profit. And granted, who the system is a metaphor for, it gets pretty dark in that regard. So there's a humanist element to it, there's a political metaphor, but there's also, again, tons of bug-squashing insanity and hyper-violence, and it can totally be watched just in that regard. It's really cool as a fun, over-the-top, cheesy action movie, but there is a core to ground it, and that I do really like. Anyway, they made like 4 more of these, I think, and a cartoon show. I'll have to check them out pretty soon. This was really good, so I'll try to be getting to the sequels relatively soon. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Relevant playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.